Greetings and salutations, my friends. I'm Michael Cross with Red Dirt DnD, and I've had a lot of people asking if I could show kind of what I do at Red Dirt DnD to create the audio, to create the music, the sound effects that you hear on Red Dirt DnD. If you don't know what Red Dirt DnD is, we're an actual play podcast that includes music and sound effects, just like a classic radio show. And to do that takes a little bit of time. It takes about 4 hours for me to edit down our entire show, as well as about 4 hours to add music and sound effects. So it's not easy. But it all actually begins in the studio. And when we are recording, you see this is our recording space over here. And this is where I sit down here. I have our mixer here. I record on a headset microphone so that I can move around when I turn my head. It still records all my sound. Of course, my dice and my dice tray from Pro Laser Cuts. Over here, we have Connor Schnold sits here. He plays Connor the Kobold. Johnny Payne is over here. He plays Zonimus Dinar. Ash sits here, our DM. Kiri Hester plays Poppy Tealeaf right over here, and Makran Stone Shaper is played by Brooke Bullock, and he sits over here. You can also see these microphones are shotgun mics. They are unidirectional, so they'll just capture basically what is right in front of the microphone. Johnny and Ash are recorded on lavalier mics. Lav mics are pinned to the shirt. I found that Johnny and Ash kind of liked moving around a little bit more, so having them on lavalier mics captures their sound without losing it if they were to turn their head, for example. So this is the recording space that we use at KOSU Studios, and very excited. Thank you so much to KOSU for allowing us to do something like this. I record everything on Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is a wonderful device. I absolutely love it, but this is not a tutorial on how to use Adobe Audition. On YouTube, there are plenty of places where you can get great tutorials on how to use Adobe Audition. All I'm going to kind of show you is what I do to make sure that we record, that we create the Red Dirt D&D podcast. And I'm going to go back to episode 50, and so that way there's not any spoilers for any newer people who haven't heard all the way through. Going back to about episode 50 kind of gives you an idea of how it's been a while since we've actually put episode 50 out. So when we pull up episode 50, and let me see if we got the raw video here, and it is fairly long. Our recording sessions, we record in 4-hour increments. So each episode is about 1 hour long. And this episode itself was about 1 hour and 2 minutes. And it took us a while. But once I edit, this brings it down to about 30 minutes long. And we start out just by going very simply all the way to the beginning and editing out different sounds. Let me go ahead and play this for you.
After having reunited with, for him, a long-lost companion.
And I start out by taking out all the pauses. And you can hear something like this. So it sounds like...
With, for him, a long-lost companion.
Because I want the actors to be able to pause all they want, although I want it to tighten up when it comes to the actual sound in the podcast. So I take out all these long pauses so that it flows better.
For him, a long-lost companion. For you, Zonimus, a man you just met a week ago. Eopix has returned. Eopix has returned, wandering back into your lives on the back of a magnificent Pegasus.
I also take out, if we get to any points...
So looking at it...
Okay, right there's a great example. So, and I do it too, ums and uhs are inevitable. You cannot help but have them. So we can take those out quite easily. We select it with the Adobe Audition, then we hit delete, and then the sound is a lot smoother.
So looking at it.
And actually, there's a repeated word there. So we could actually take the first looking out like that.
So looking at it.
And it becomes a lot smoother. And I do that throughout the entire thing. Once I have it completely edited, it comes down to about 35 minutes long, and it's a lot shorter, it's a lot more succinct, and it looks something like this. The reason it's a little bit, you'll see these levels are a little bit higher than what we have here. You can see the different sounding levels. The way that is done is I go to a hard limit, and a hard limit, what that does is that keeps all the audio. If someone's being a little bit quieter, it brings them up to everybody's volume at the same amount. It takes a little while sometimes when you hard limit, because what the computer is doing is making sure that it is all an equal sound right at 0.1 decibels. And so it's bringing up the soft, but it's also kind of making sure that it doesn't distort in any way. And so I loved hard limit. I think that's one of the best ways to use it. And so that way, again, everybody's voice is just about even. And so you can really see it here with the editing. Once I have a complete edited point, then I create a multi-track. And we put this into the multi-track session. And now this is actually the fun part. This is one of the parts that I absolutely enjoy, probably more than anything else. And that's being able to put together music and sound effects. So we go over to our files over here where I've got music, I've got sound effects, I've got, or what I call Foley, obviously. And if I want to put music in, say example, I want to put something from, let's go to Jeffrey McBride. Jeffrey McBride's been doing music for us since the very beginning, and he's been wonderful, and we've absolutely loved having him. So we can play something like this. This is use a Quick Look programming. Quick Look is used through Microsoft, and it allows you to look at files or listen to files without actually having to open them up. And I can go through each one of these and listen to them and how they sound. Like that. And we're going to be heading into a battle. So let's start with maybe a little bit of battle music, as that's just now opened up on my Adobe Audition. And I put that in with Control-Shift-I into the multi-track, and it's right there. To start out the piece, I want the music to come in first and then come down just a bit as we hear Ash begin the show.
After having...
Something like that. If you want to make it a little bit longer, to where you get a little bit more music in like that, that way it sounds a little bit better.
After having reunited.
And then you have that sound. If we go a little bit further in, there's
those magnificent winged horses. While trying to act as a distraction to allow you to free them, Eopix has been taken by surprise. A net being fired from a modified ballista.
The net was actually fired from a ballista, and so what I wanted to do was to find a sound that worked best. So I go to my Foley, and I actually search for something like trebuchet. And there I've got trebuchet sounds. I can listen to it here. Like that. Double clicking that and putting that into my Adobe Audition, I can then grab just the sound of that. And again, Control-Shift-I, putting that in like that, and you've got the sound.
Eopix has been taken by surprise. A net being fired from a modified ballista. Whirling.
And to add a little bit more sound, he is riding on a Pegasus. So I want maybe the sound of a horse distressed. So I will search for horse. We go horse upset. We'll listen to that. Something like that sound. We double click that, put that back into our Adobe Audition, and then Control-Shift-I to put that in. So this way you get kind of a level sound of not only of the net being fired, but also of the horse being
by
upset.
surprise. A net being fired from a modified ballista, whirling through the air.
If that sounds a little bit too loud, we can always bring it down like that.
From a modified ballista, whirling through the air, wrapping around him and whirlwind.
You want to make sure that you never overpower your actors. You want to make sure that the sound and the music kind of flows easily. And once we've decided everything we want to put in, so maybe I want to put in a little bit more battle music, so I can go to our music from Sirenscape. I can go to our music from tabletopaudio.com. And I've spent the past a little bit, about almost 2 years, going through every one of the sounds and making sure that I have put comments in each one of these, and so that, oh, this doesn't have my, let's go back to there. Let's go back to my music. There we go. Battle. And I have made comments on each one of these sounds so that I kind of have an idea of what I want, the kind of sound that I want to bring into it. Whether it's going to be very heavy, guitar heavy, whether it's going to be more tension. Or whether it's going to be the sound of, I've got some epic sound. Let's see if I can find some good epic sound in here. Oh, there's our sandworm fight, if you can remember our sandworm. And I just put this music in, for example. So we'll double click that, turn off the sound there, transition over here. And once I've got the sound in, then I can bring it back into the multi-track. And let's mix these down. So these will combine a little bit better, and you'll hear the sound transition.
Of a magnificent Pegasus, and asking once more for your help. He has led you to a corral being used to cage more of those magnificent winged horses. While trying to act as a distraction to allow you to free them, Eopix has been taken by surprise. A net being fired from a...
You can see how much louder it gets over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this down just a bit more. It shouldn't affect the overall feeling of it, but it makes sure you don't overpower the sound effect you've just put in, but also it doesn't overpower the actors.
To allow you to free them, Eopix has been taken by surprise. A net being fired from a modified ballista, whirling through the air, wrapping around him and whirlwind.
And then once you've basically gone through this entire thing, then you will actually create a completed session that looks something like this. This is the completed sound for episode 50. Once I put together all the sound effects, the music, again, you can see kind of why this takes about 4 hours to put together, because I want to make sure the sound works for the show. We are an improv show, so we have to make sure that the sound works for the story, and this is what the final outcome sounds like.
After having reunited with, for him, a long-lost companion. For you, Zonimus.
And then once we got to the
Has
trebuchet
been taken
sound,
by surprise. A net being fired from a modified ballista, whirling through the air, wrapping around him and Whirlwind. The weighted stones at the ends of the net wrapping around one another and causing.
so there we have several different sounds to create this one sound effect of the trebuchet over here, some rope spinning, some whooshes, scared horses, the metal sounds of the metal balls that wrap around Eopix and Whirlwind,
To the
and
earth, falling
then them falling to the ground.
and causing the pair to plummet to the earth. Falling.
So creating the sounds is a combination of different sounds that I've put together, and thanks to, again, Tabletop Audio, Sirenscape, these other groups that have helped me create this wonderful sound. If you like what you've heard, I definitely suggest that you go over to reddirtdnd.com. You can also find us, again, wherever you find your podcasts. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the description, in the comments section. This is Red Dirt D&D. Please make sure to like and subscribe us. And we go live with things like plausible deniability every other Thursday. So hit that bell and make sure that you know when we're going live or when we've uploaded new videos, like we do every Monday with Secrets of Monster Island. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear from you soon. I'm Michael Cross for Red Dirt D&D.